evening, everyone. Thank you, and we would like to welcome our leaders from Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, and leaders from the Philippines by joining us tonight on this training. To highlight the importance of our brain and the tremendous impact of stress on our mental health, we have arranged a special segment this month. We are collaborating with our global office, Unicity Philippines. Our product specialists from 3 different countries will be sharing their expertise with us on the topic of the brain. On top of that, we will have a special guest, Dr. Erin Glint from Unicity International, Vice President of Research and Development, to share with us on this topic as well. Tonight, we will be starting with the gut. Do you know the gut is central of our immunity? It also produces over 20 hormones. Some of them are hormones crucial to our moods, happiness level, and how it could relate it to our brain. Sound interesting, right? I can't wait to hear more. Without further ado, let's kickstart the session. Over to you, our product specialist, Miss Claudia.
Thank you, CK, for the introduction. And indeed, this month is going to be a very interesting month as we have many series specially designed around the area of brain health. So just give me a few moments as I share my slides. This is George. George is a college student that is passionate about life. And one of the things he enjoys doing is skydiving. In order to finance his college studies, he coaches people to do skydiving every now and then. So on the Labor Day weekend, George wanted to do something he loved to do best, which is jumping off a plane. So just like how he has done this activity for over countless time, well, one day something happened and his landing went wrong. So the landing came into such a sense that the impact of him landing towards the ground was as fast as 80 kilometers per hour. So because of this drastic speed, it rendered his body to be crushed. And this has fractured his skull. So because of how dire this situation became, George was then immediately sent to the hospital into the emergency ward for treatment. So the doctors tried very, very hard to find the best treatment plan they can to try to resuscitate George. Okay, they tried antibiotic treatments, the strongest kind, to all kinds of medication to bring him, to restore him back to normal. And amazingly, George survived. Just as George was in the hopeful journey of recovery and recuperation, the doctors found out that he suddenly had a high fever. His fever was not like your ordinary fever, but it spiked up to 40 degrees. So all the medical staff were alarmed, and they were trying to figure out what exactly went wrong. They gave the best antibiotics, they gave the best treatment, and lo and behold, they found out that there's actually bacteria that were able to escape the first round of antibiotic treatment. So when they found out about that infection, the infection has went through the cerebral spinal fluid. So it's a section near his brain area, okay, going down to his spine. And when they wanted to do aggressive treatment, it was already too late. The bacteria was so aggressive and it builds a lot of pressure, okay, because it's moving up so fast and it was spreading rapidly. So at one time, the pressure was so bad, it was too much that it pushed, all right, the bacterial infection pushed the fluid of the brain, okay, out from the spinal cord, right? So basically it went out from the brain. So because of this incident, it has rendered George completely immobilized. He was paralyzed. And since then, he has to depend on ventilator life support in order to breathe. Not long after George died, and he was only 27 years old. So George's story is one of the many incidents where patients die out of an antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Well, why I find this story to be so powerful to me is because it related to a lot of my experience when I was in the hospital. We used to take bacterial infections very lightly, right? You know, whenever there's anything that happened to us, we just take a drug and, oh, okay, it's done. But once you're in a hospital setting, it's a very different scenario. Okay, and you may be surprised. A person, okay, he can have a myriad of very serious medical issues. Okay, for example, it could be cancer or some organ failure. But what really caused the patient to die, right, that triggered the end of his life is really what we call sepsis. Sepsis is basically an infection, right, that's already entered the blood circulation. So once a patient has sepsis, usually they only have around 50% chance of survival. If you talk about septic shock, the more serious stage of infection. So I've seen many times in the ward, right, in ICU, and also in my daily ward rounding, many times the patient will have history of sepsis. And whenever that happens, even they are on very strong antibiotics, doctor will say that this person may not have a high percentage of survival. And then they will then tell the family in advance, okay, because of this. So just to let you know, sepsis used to be something that can be easily managed. But now, due to how bacteria is becoming more and more resistant, we are finding it very difficult to treat. So like George's situation, they have given him the best antibiotic, right, at that time. And just even after they check everything is clear, there is one bacteria that was resistant. And because of that, they escaped it, and then it multiplied, and it just spread rapidly throughout his whole system. So why is it so dangerous? And how can bacteria evolve to be so potent? Well, just like humans, they are living beings. Bacteria, in order to survive, they will then change and evolve in order to stay alive. So with this comes with some problems. Penicillin is the first antibiotic that was discovered in the 1940s. So just right after the introduction of penicillin, 2 years later, a resistance is identified. Next, we have vancomycin. So vancomycin is considered a broad spectrum antibiotic, meaning to say it is one of a stronger class of antibiotic. But even a stronger antibiotic, after 16 years, there's already resistance. Next, there's ipipenem, introduced in 1985. 13 years later, it is found to be resistant. And the most recent discovery, daptomycin, that was incepted in 2003, just in a span of a year, a resistance is already developed. So looks like it's an endless cycle. When there's a bacteria, we introduce an antibiotic. When there's another new bacteria, we introduce another drug. And it looks like a game of a leap of frog. It keeps jumping and jumping. And looks like we are already approaching the end of the game. Last time, out of 100 antibiotics, 10 of them may work. Now, out of 10 antibiotics, 2 may work, or none. So, just now was an instance of a more serious case. You may think that it is something in the distant future, so you don't really feel the effect of it. Now let's talk about infections that are more closer to home. All right, there's less serious and there's more common. So one of them is known as urinary tract infection. All right, UTI. This is a very common infection and it's especially commonly found in women. And how an individual will get this infection? Okay, usually bacteria from stool or from a dirty toilet environment. So somehow the bacteria managed to enter the urinary tract. So when this happens, usually patients will feel a burning sensation when they go to the toilet. And it's very itchy, okay, it's a burning sensation. So this is actually a case that happened pretty recently in Singapore. So this patient, she, as any patient would do when they see a doctor. So doctor gave 1 round of antibiotics. So okay, after that she tried, but to no avail. So she went to see the doctor again, and the doctor gave another type of antibiotic. So she waited patiently, and until the 3rd week, still no improvement. So she went to see the doctor again, and what the doctor found out, okay, was that the infection has already spread to the kidney. A UTI infection, you know, something that's in the uterus can spread to the kidney. So, and the doctor say if she don't do anything to get rid of this infection, it's going to cause her kidney damage. And very soon, it will not just only affect the kidney, but areas like the liver, lungs, so on and so forth. So a normal UTI patient would then have to be rolled immediately to the emergency ward to be on IV, okay, antibiotic through the intravenous route. And only through this, thankfully, she was able to survive. So when I saw this report, I have a shock, you know, because UTI is something very common and it's something that I know is considered as a very easily treatable disease. And while someone have UTI can even have kidney-related disease because of it, was really startling for me, especially with my experience coming from a medical background before. So according to this doctor, all right, he's practicing in Singapore, he says that this pattern is becoming more and more common. He says it's fairly common that normal antibiotics do not work on infections like UTI. And a lot of patients have to go into IV. They have to be admitted, and not all of them survive this infection, you know. So can you imagine? What have we come into? And how a small, insignificant bacteria that we view as something easily treated can now even cause death. So antibiotic resistance has caused 7,000 deaths worldwide as of now, according to WHO. So 300 million deaths will soon be approaching us by 2050. Just so you know, 2050 isn't that far behind. it's very soon, right? 30 years from now, we will soon approach 300 million. That is a big gap compared to 700,000 deaths. So, looks like we are in trouble here. Okay, and because antibiotic treatments is very different from drugs like statin or diabetics. Okay, because people have to depend long-term on these diabetic and statin drugs. So pharmaceutical companies will invest a lot of money in these areas, okay, because it's a profit-generating area. Whereas antibiotic, okay, because bacteria will keep evolving and keep having a new strain. So because of that, they have to do a lot of clinical trials, and we are unable to keep up with speed. So because of that, a lot of pharmaceutical companies are cutting out resources and budget. So at the moment, actually, in terms of antibiotic advancement, we are not really there yet. We are seriously not there, okay, because they have diverted their attention to more profit-generating drugs rather than things that are more crucial, such as antibiotic. So because of this, it will come to a time that these drugs will no longer work for us. All right, is the reality, whether we want to accept it or not. And there must be a different way. Okay, what other ways we can do really that would not cause harm to our body? Because antibiotic kills both good and bad bacteria, right? So this is the reason why microbiome is so important. And trust me, it is so much more than just digestion, which many people think about and they tend to neglect, right? Gut health is always the last thing on their mind. And just like pharmaceutical company, all right, they will always look at things like heart disease and such. Okay, not to say that heart is not an important or not a crucial organ, but gut is very much neglected. And now a lot of scientists is moving towards discovering, all right, and doing a lot of research in this area because there's a lot of potential. Because think about it. If the bad bacteria can evolve so fast over time to survive, the same potential is also in good bacteria. Scientists began to find that there are some good bacteria that were also able to sustain through this whole lifetime to be very strong and exhibit many protective effects that can help the host, such as us. So there's a good reason why this whole area is not just popular because of the trend, but there is really some science substantiated behind this. And they are now looking towards ways, and also because if you manage towards the good bacteria angle, you don't have to go through a lot of invasive procedures, all right? And you can maintain your good bacteria in a very good ecosystem. So gut is predominantly very important, number one, for immunity. Now scientists are saying that the gut is the first line of defense when it comes to immunity. All right, it used to be the lymph nodes and things like that, but now they are finding a lot of shift towards this area. Okay, there are a lot of evidence. And brain and mental health. Okay, honestly, the first time when I stumbled upon this, I also find it to be very skeptical in a sense. Why? Because the brain and gut look nothing alike. All right, they are two separate organs and there is no similarity at all at the surface. So I was thinking to myself, how can two different organs can form a relationship? How is that possible? So, right, it's fascinating that scientists find that this intricate organ of the gut actually have nerve fibers that's similar to the brain cells. And it is so elaborate, okay, that they have nerve cells as intricate as this. And these are the nerve cells that can also be found in our brain. And the extensive network of neurons is even more compared to our spinal cord. How amazing is that? And it is even listed as an entire connective organ, all right, which is known as the enteric nervous system. So this was new discovery to me. And scientists find that the neurotransmitters that is used in our brain, okay, such as serotonin, dopamine, are also used in the gut because the same nerve cells are present in both of these organs. If a person have an abundance of neurotransmitters, okay, that's found in the brain, this is what we call anxiety and stress. Too much activity here already, okay, very stressed. Also means that a high neurotransmitter will also be present in the gut. And this is known as cramp, pain, and diarrhea. Because the same neurotransmitter is here, is always activating it. So you find yourself, okay, before going for a presentation, you will have like a bit of a tummy ache, or you feel like you need to go to the toilet immediately when you're stressed, and you feel cramped. It actually has a relationship with the brain. High neurotransmitter in the brain means high neurotransmitter in the gut. And if a person has too low levels of neurotransmitter in the brain, this is what we call depression. You feel sad, you don't feel motivated, and all these things is due to a decreased chemical neurons in the brain. And the same is also observed in the gut. A depressed brain is a depressed gut. You have things like indigestion, your gut don't move as much, you can't digest, and you will most likely have issues in the toilet, especially constipation. So this is how scientists put 2 and 2 together. Most of the time, if you have a disbalance or imbalance of neurotransmitter in the brain, it will also be reflected in the gut. There's very few instances where both of these don't match, but most of the time it does, and it mirrors one another. So here are some key hormones that we should pay attention when it comes to anxiety, mood, and mental balance. So number 1, serotonin, dopamine, GABA, and melatonin. So serotonin is a happy hormone. This hormone is produced whenever you watch a good movie or you're laughing at the great comedy sketch. And dopamine is also in the exciting category. It is a hormone that is excreted when you achieve a breakthrough or reward. For example, if you finish that task that was assigned by a boss, or you break a game record, okay, you get both of these in your system. So 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut. Before that was 70%. But now journals are saying as much as 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut. And dopamine, another crucial one, is 50% produced in the gut. Next, we have the exciting hormone. Next, we also need to have the calming hormone. So one of them is known as GABA and melatonin. So GABA is the hormone that helps us to calm down. All right, and we also have good amounts of this in Enjuvenate. And next, melatonin is the main hormone that helps to regulate sleep. Okay, helps to relax our body. So both of these hormones can also be found in the gut. So because of this association, that's why scientists now cluster the gut and the brain as a connection. That's why it's called the gut-brain connection. So excitement and calm, both of these hormones need to have the right balance. Sometimes you can get too fixated at one hormone. For example, okay, we hear a lot about serotonin. So we just want to increase the serotonin. But if you do not balance the other calming hormone, there will also be problems, such as this. Okay, your neurons will be firing at each other, and your mind will be too active. So do you find yourself sometimes before you go to bed, your mind is just always thinking? You're already planning, before you sleep, you're thinking about tomorrow, or what work I need to do. I need to fetch my son will eat rice or not. Like, you think about all these things, before you go to sleep. And sometimes if you become too active, you become insomnia. You have insomnia problem. You can't sleep. On the flip side, okay, if you don't have enough serotonin, all right, and you have too much melatonin, then you will have feeling down and negative thoughts. You have like, completely no energy. And you will find yourself always in the more negative thinking. This work confirm cannot do one. She confirm will say this. That you will be in a very hopeful state, and you will not have any confidence, right, to look at your surrounding. So these are very common issues that we all face on any given day, all right, that don't give any benefit to us. We are either too excited or we are too, sad in a sense. So what's the solution? Obviously, if you only target to one specific brain chemical, that's not going to help, because there's still 3 other hormones that have to be in the right balance. So the best way to regulate this is not to take a drug or a single nutrient, but is to depend on the gut. Because it's so elaborate, all right, there's an entire ecosystem here. It has a way to somehow regulate your hormone in a very natural manner that no drug will be able to give you the kind of balance. Seriously. Okay, because all of these hormones, as you talked about just now, all produced in the gut. So if we can take good care of this, then we will be having good mental health. So gut health is so much more than just digestion. It is immunity and it is brain health. So if there is a superbug is the antibiotic resistant bacteria. Okay, people are now naming it as superbug, okay, as a casual term. So if there is superbug, we need a super gut. All right, this is the only way that we can protect ourselves right now, because drug medication, they'll phase out anyway. So this is the best way to naturally protect us, not just only for our immune system, but for our mind as well. So this is where Unicity comes into the picture to play a very critical role, especially now. With what's going on, I think we are really making a very, very important statement here. Okay, and what we have really can change lives. So one of the key things that we want to talk about now is good bacteria. So we have Probionic and Probionic Plus. So what does research say about this? So there's a lot of research now talking about how probiotics can help those who are very stressed. So amongst one of these studies that I've stumbled upon, okay, a scientist was actually researching on a group of medical students. Why? Because these are one of the most stressful people. Okay, always have to kena scolding, all right, and have a lot of workload. So it's one of the ideal, all right, populations to study upon. So they find that after these medical students were administered with probiotics, they were able to actually measure their brain wave, right, and to be able to give some pretty useful information. So this group of highly stressful individuals, when they were being administered good bacteria, they find that their brain wave, okay, gravitate towards having improved sleep. They were able to sleep better. Okay, they don't have so much insomnia symptoms. And also they experience overall reduced stress. Somehow, all right, they were able to endure through their placement a lot better. And the best is this. In their brain scan, they find that these individuals are somehow not so reactive towards stress. And they will not exhibit so much aggressive behavior. Okay, they're not so angry and agitated all the time, but they are able to be more calm and able to manage their situations better. So who knew? Okay, probiotics, something for the gut, can help highly stressful individuals to do their job better. So some of the key areas that we have to look into is building more species. All right, the more good bacteria species we have, the better it is for us. And next is diversity. We need to have more species and more communities. So Probionic, we have 4 different strands. But in these 4 strands, there are actually strands specifically that can benefit mental health. Okay, such as Lactobacillus rhamnosus. Right? It's found there are several studies that say that this class of bacteria can benefit mental health. And next, in Probionic class, right, we have 11 different types of probiotics. So there are additional strains that are really good in terms of managing anxiety symptoms as well. Okay, first of all, it has Lactobacillus rhamnosus. Next, they have Bifidobacterium longnum. So these are 2 particular strains that are beneficial towards mental health. So we have these strains. So moving on from the good bacteria, okay, these are also living beings, right? They need food in order to survive and thrive. Okay, so this is when we have prebiotics. Okay, prebiotics are food for good bacteria. So just so you know, these good bacteria have a lifespan. Okay, they don't live forever. They only have 3 to 4 days. So if your gut is not in a good condition, then it may die a lot more earlier than 3 days. And for us, we want them to live as long as possible and to multiply as fast as possible as well. So if they're being fed good food, then your good bacteria can multiply faster, they can colonize your gut a lot faster and give you overall health a lot faster as well. So this is where Bio7 come into the picture. All right, it's not just any other fiber supplement, but you have incorporated some key ingredients such as inulin, guar gum, and citrus pectin. All right, these are found fibers that are extracted from natural plant sources. On top of that, it also has this unique yeast fermentate. So this honestly is one of our patented ingredients. Not like any other yeast that you can find in bread, but these are specially studied yeast that can really help to give that genome-ceutical effect, all right, that can help to significantly increase the diversity of good bacteria in the gut. And also, we have included a lot of polyphenols, such as from pomegranate, from apple, and grape. Okay, these polyphenols work hand in hand with the unique fermentate. So both of these components, when added together, exhibit some significant effects in the body, unlike what you've ever seen before. So all these fibers that is found in Bio7 increases short-chain fatty acids. So this short-chain fatty acid is very, very important as well. Okay, and we don't have enough of this in our diet. And it's very difficult to get high amounts of this. So if our body have good amounts of this, okay, research show that it is found to reduce stress, increase our mood, and also strengthening our immunity. So SCFA is one of the key things that's being produced out from our prebiotics that's very important for our health. So it has 58 times increase in overall microbiome diversity. So as you can see here, it's not just one strain that has increased, right? But it has increased up to 9 different strains of bacteria. That is going to be very, very important for our immune health. And on top of that, we have also done a clinical study, okay, to study how effective is this for 12 weeks. So before, as you can see, the gut is dominated by bad bacteria that is colored in red. So just after 12 weeks, this, right, the 58 times increase. Okay, just now you see it's a species. Now you can see in this pie chart is very drastic. All right, and this shows how powerful is Bio7. And it is truly unlike what I've ever seen in the market that can give us this result. So on top of this prebiotic that we have, another one I want to highlight is Hawaiian Noni, okay, which I think is not being talked about often enough. So one of the key ingredients in Hawaiian Noni, okay, apart from Noni food, is FOS. So FOS is a fructooligosaccharide, which is a very important prebiotic food for good bacteria as well. So FOS, you can see this in a lot of probiotic supplements and even beverage. So in most supplements, all right, you will see a range of 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams. Mostly they will come in this range. 2,000 is considered very rare already. A lot of them is in 1,000 or 1,005. But in Hawaiian Noni, we have 6,341 milligrams. When I saw this, I was also very surprised. Okay, we have 3 times more FOS than the standard supplement. So this speaks volume, you know, about the quality of the ingredients that we have in Hawaiian Noni. It is more than just a very tasty drink, but it has awesome benefit that can definitely benefit our gut health. Not to mention, Hawaiian Noni does not end there. Okay, there's Noni fruit, beetroot, sea buckthorn, mulberry, aloe vera, and there's even papaya in it as well. And all these other natural ingredients together with FOS can tremendously improve our gut health. So if you can have Bio7 and together with this, it will give you an awesome synergistic effect. So with all the fantastic supplements that we have that can really target your gut health, you don't have to be worried. Because I know many people at these times are very worried about themselves. They scared, you know, that they will get infected and things like that. But with Unicity, we can really buy you a peace of mind. So make sure you take good care of your gut, because your gut health will be the future of medicine very, very soon. All right. And we are ahead of the game. Right? Maybe a study will be published maybe 10 years from now. But if you start doing it now, we will have a 10-year head start, okay, compared to people in other parts of the world. So I'm really very proud to tell you that we have what it takes in order to stand firm and be strong and to be unwavering during this difficult time. So thank you for your attention. I hope you have learned a thing or two today. So we'll move into Q&A shortly. Okay, but before this, we just want to go through some of the promotions that we have. Okay. So now this month, okay, in conjunction of brain health, we have Unimate. So 2 boxes of Unimate, you'll be able to get a special edition packaging of our coffee. So this festive sleeve can only be received at this time. So make sure you get your hands on this. So this is the Singapore and Brunei version. As for Malaysia, we'll get the green color one to match with our brown packaging. Okay, so make sure if you get Urinary, this makes a great gift for your house visitation. Okay, so now we are open for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat box. Yeah. Questions? I hope today's presentation is beneficial for all of you. All right, what is FOS? Okay, FOS is actually a type of prebiotic. Okay, basically it's food for the good bacteria. So if you want to have good amounts of good bacteria, then you need to have FOS. Okay, it's quite important. So it's just a type of fiber. So in our Hawaiian Noni, we have high amount of this. So if you can have it in your market, it's great to have it as well. Okay, for people do chemotherapy, can they take native legend tea? Well, I do sympathize with this question, okay, because I know that there are a lot of people, going through chemotherapy is a very difficult procedure and it's very taxing on the body. But unfortunately, we don't have any studies done on people who have chemotherapy, so we can't officially recommend anything. So if you want me to help you in this process, okay, I can give you the product sheet that talks in detail about the ingredients that we have in native legend tea. We can bring this to the doctor and ask for their opinion. So if the doctor says everything is okay, it does not clash with medication, then I guess you can follow the doctor's advice. Okay, no problem, Gap. All right, it's my privilege to be able to share with you today. Okay, what about Noni? Is it good for cancer people? So, Jerry, this falls in the same category as the question that I've talked about just now. So I can send to you the product information about these two products. Okay, thank you, Amy. All right, thank you. So are there any more questions? Okay, if not, then, okay, no problem. So if there are not any more questions, all right, you can always email me. Yeah, you can always email me at my email address, claudia.u@unicity.com, and I'll be happy to reply you. So thank you everybody for your time, and I hope that this sharing will benefit you and how you will be empowered to also share this information with the people that you know. So good night, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.